Welcome to Travel Bytes, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything in the travel industry. My name is Justin. Over there, that is Andrew. Some of you may already know us from the Unknown Destination podcast, but we're going through a little bit of a rebrand, which includes being in a weird circle in the middle of some random cafe. um, so I guess the first thing is, for those of you that are new, just to give you a little bit of background on each of us. Like I said, my name is Justin. I've been in the travel industry since about 2007, working in both corporate and leisure travel, and more recently working in hotels, everything from housekeeping to the front desk, and most recently hotel revenue. So that's why I know anything about travel, because it's certainly not because I have the money or the time to go do it myself. So Andrew, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so like Justin, I've been in travel for a while. Probably roughly 10 years or so, including college experience. I got my degree from St. Louis with a program that they no longer have. So I got in and got out while that was being brought to the forefront, and they were advertising for it. But I guess without the advertising, it has gone away. I'm currently in the corporate business world, and have been for the past probably 4 years or so. I took a break for maybe about a year and a half, 2 years. Tried my hand at HR. It was not for me. I'm not a very HR person. And then I found my way back. So I've worked at multiple corporate travel agencies. Never delved into the leisure side of travel on a business standpoint, because I have enough trouble figuring out where I want to go and not convincing other people where to go.
Nice. All right. So I guess just to kind of explain reasons for those of you that were watching us or listening to us on Unknown Destination, the kind of reason for rebranding. The biggest one was YouTube demonetized us because some hotel got mad that I explained their rewards program. I don't know why they would do that, because everything that we do and everything that I was making was definitely made to be informational. But I am going to re-upload some of those videos to a new YouTube channel under the Travel Bytes name. So you may still see that Unknown Destination logo and mentions of it in certain videos, but I kind of know which ones to avoid now and which hotels I'm probably going to avoid for the rest of my life. But yeah, that's the big reason for that. And I think the name Travel Bytes is great for a podcast. Bytes as in audio bites, and food, because food's a huge part of travel.
Yeah. And I think the more that we're traveling, the more we'll be able to speak on that as well. Kind of with the world opening back up. I wish we would have had this when I did my road trip, my solo road trip out east, because I had probably many things that I could have talked about or shown during my northeastern adventure.
Yeah, I forgot that you did that, and I did a road trip a couple years ago now, or a year ago. I don't even remember, but to multiple cities here in the Midwest, and same thing. There's a lot of stuff that I could talk about from that. So, the goal is to talk more about travel on here, create these podcasts when we can, probably with no set schedule, because consistency's never been great for us.
And those are just facts.
Just be fully honest and fully transparent, but I'm going to try to upload videos to the YouTube channel. Andrew may, if he has time. And a lot of them are going to be, for now, guides to different airlines, credit cards, hotels, things like that. But I'm really trying this year to go out and make more in-person content. So if that's something you would like, I have some ideas about specifically things here in the St. Louis area and St. Louis foods that I'm planning on recording very soon. So hopefully that's something that everyone would like to see, and something that I can dive into pretty soon.
Look forward to it. That is, I know there's a lot of pretty interesting places here in Michigan that we could probably do some content on as well. I know we've got the Christmas capital of the world, Frankenmuth, that people probably haven't really experienced before. And then, of course, we've got Mackinac, the city of Mackinac, Mackinac Bridge, Mackinac Island, lots of different types of cuisines and ways of life up there.
And you're probably less likely to get shot there than here, so you may have more fun recording a video.
Yeah, most of the
if
time
you
I try
avoid
to.
Detroit, that is.
Hey, now there are some really good, actually, for if we're trying to target some eateries, there are some fantastic places in Detroit and the surrounding areas for a lot of different kinds of cuisine. A lot of Middle Eastern and Asian type inspired restaurants down there.
Nice. Obviously, the big thing here in St. Louis is Italian food. And honestly, one of the big reasons that I got inspired to make the videos with different St. Louis foods is I was watching Good Mythical Morning, the YouTube show, and their chef, mythical chef Josh, mentioned that St. Louis was the home of toasted ravioli. But when he said that, he said nothing else has ever come out of St. Louis that's good and that the arch was stupid. So now I kind of have a personal vendetta against him. So you'll be seeing a lot of TikTok videos from our TikTok channel of me specifically addressing Josh trying to prove him wrong.
I mean, there's also emos.
There is emos. And here's the thing, St. Louis style pizza, uh, it's unique and it's definitely a taste you get used to it or you love it from the start, because it's very different than any other type of pizza. Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports completely ripped into St. Louis style pizza, but when he does his pizza reviews, he specifically only gets cheese only pizza. And to me, St. Louis style pizza can't just be plain cheese.
It's not like a New York style where cheese
Yeah,
having just cheese is normal. Yeah.
like it lets the topping shine because Provel cheese by itself is all right, but like you need meat.
Yes. I think we all need a little more meat in our lives. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Actually, the most recent St. Louis trip that I went on, um, got my girlfriend turned on to emos as well as her son, and they both have keep asking when we're going to go back to St. Louis, and just because they want emos. So there's definitely I think we had just like they had some meal deal going on, and came with like these little provolone bites that were like little
The
cheese sticks
Provel bites,
almost.
oh, they're so good.
They had cinnamon, like the cinnamon sticks. I
Mhm.
don't know, everything was fantastic. I ended up just walking, and um we were located in the Forest Park area, and I walked from the hotel up to the emos that was on the corner. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do.
And because it was a beautiful night, and it was they had a bunch of the lights, the arch was lit up, so very very peaceful night to just be walking. And I know a lot of people are very scared to do anything of the sort in St. Louis, but I'm going to tell you, I walked into two little old ladies walking their dogs, and that was it.
Nice. I know exactly where you're talking about, and kind of funny. The ironic part of that is Dave Portnoy, the emos that he went to try their pizza. It's that exact same
Well,
location.
it just shows that he's an idiot. I don't know.
That, yeah, I mean, I've kind of felt that way, and we're starting beef in the first episode of this new podcast title, but I kind of feel that way.
He's never gonna care about us. It's fine.
Valid point. Valid points. Um, well, now we've spoken so positively of St. Louis, I don't know if I want to share this next story, but I'm going to anyway because it's something that was just addressed on TikTok by a pretty well-known creator with millions of subscribers, and that is youth pastor Ryan. Ironically, he's actually his parents' house. He's kind of my neighbor. He lives right on the other side of the park, but he just posted a video about being in St. Louis for New Year's, and he wanted to be under the arch at midnight, which
Hmm.
if you're from St. Louis, you kind of know you don't go under the arch at midnight. But he said it was really beautiful because there were all these great fireworks and stuff. But then he looked down at the riverfront, and there was a guy on the Missouri side and a guy on the Illinois side, and they were playing the world's stupidest game of Battleship and just shooting guns at each other.
Yep.
So, it is what it is. But if you know what you're doing and you know where to go, I can say I'm 34. I'll be 35 very soon. By the time this gets uploaded, probably in less than 10 days. And I have yet to be shot or shot at. So that says something. And I lived in the city for a while. So, you know,
Hmm. Yep. It's all about being smart with but just paying attention to your surroundings, I would say.
yeah. And the other big thing is St. Louis has a ton of amazing free attractions, which is something that you just don't get in other cities. That Emos is right around an area called Forest Park, which is actually the largest park in the United States. It is not Central Park in New York, which some people think for some reason, and it's actually not even close. But Forest Park has our art museum that's been there since the 1904 World's Fair, the History Museum, the St. Louis Zoo. All of these activities are free, and that's something you're not going to get in any other major city.
Yeah, actually, my girlfriend's sister is going down, or she's going to be in St. Louis with her son, and they were asking for things to do, and I'm like, actually, perfect thing. You only have one day. There's a lot of free things in the Forest Park area. So the zoo, the science center, there's all kinds of museums down there that you can get into. Well, as far as I know, all of them are still free as well.
Yeah.
So lots to do in that particular area, and like I said, feels very safe when you're walking around there. Usually there's,
It does.
especially during the day, lots of people because of the zoo being there. And then yeah, there's a lot of safety in the way that you can actually, the sidewalks everywhere, so you don't have to worry about like that at all.
Very true. All right. Well, enough about St. Louis, because the point of this podcast is not just to talk about one city. It's to talk about the travel industry in general. And, a lot of the goal for this particular episode was just to kind of introduce ourselves and let everybody get to know who we are. But I do kind of want to touch on things that have happened recently within the travel industry. And there's two big things that come to mind, but the one that I really want to discuss is Southwest Airlines and the meltdown that they had
Oh
a couple weeks
Jesus.
ago, right around the holidays. Uh, and since then, I've had a lot of travelers that I was working with say they're scared to ever fly Southwest again. And part of the reason I want to discuss it is because I understand your concern, but we're still talking about one of the best airlines around. Uh, but the problem really lies in the way that they do their routing and being on a point to point system. And for people that don't understand what that means, airlines like American and Delta and United have different hub cities where all of their flights will go into one hub and then you can connect to other cities. And because of that, most of their flight crews and their pilots are based out of those major hubs. Southwest doesn't do that. They fly point to point. So you may start in St. Louis, then go to Des Moines, then that flight's going to go to Denver, then it'll go to wherever, Salt Lake City, then it'll come back to St. Louis. Well, if the first leg of that flight is canceled, all five of those flights are canceled for the day. And that really was a big contributor as to why they weren't able to get back online right away. And the other reason for that is obviously their systems are a bit antiquated, if I can even say that word, compared to others.
They're
So
real old.
they're real old. It's true. It wasn't until what, Andrew, the past 2 or 3 years where travel agents could even sell Southwest in their distribution system.
Yeah. So for people that are not in the industry, Southwest used to be kind of in the same realm or same bucket as Spirit Airlines or Frontier. It was just a better version of those for a lot of people's opinions. At least from a travel agent standpoint, we really couldn't do anything with them anytime someone wanted to book them. It was either done through Swabiz, which is their business portal that you'd be able to go to if you worked for a company and they said, you're flying Southwest. Um, or we'd have to call them or book directly on their website, which as a travel agent is not very convenient for anyone. Because it essentially you could do it yourself at that point and it would be a lot faster than calling someone. Along with their recent outages, I think your point about the point to point, your point about the point to point makes a good point.
Oh,
Um,
Lord.
because another reason why they couldn't get back up and running so quickly is they didn't know where a lot of their planes were.
Yeah.
The ones that were already taken off, they had to locate and figure out, okay, if this one is here, then what are we going to do for XYZ flights? But without a system in place to cover this kind of system wide outage, there was no shot that they were going to be doing anything. And to be honest, I'm surprised they got it up and running as quickly as they did
I
and
was
kind
too.
of established back to a normalcy as quickly as they did.
Yeah, I was very impressed with how quickly they got things back up. And that was because the CEO did make the decision to just completely stop all flights basically for 3 days, which seems crazy, but it was pretty dang effective. And they were able to get a lot of people home still. Uh, I think it's also important to point out that the current CEO of Southwest has not been with the company that long. And when he took over, one of his main goals was to update software. He knew that that was a problem. And unfortunately, he kind of got stuck with the blame for a situation that wasn't necessarily his fault because he was brought on board to fix it. Uh,
Yeah, and you can't really blame somebody like that when they say that that's what they're wanting to fix, and then that ancient system goes down that they've been wanting to get rid of for. I mean, we're not exaggerating when we say that their system has probably been around since the company has been around.
yeah,
Like it's that old.
yeah, and Southwest, I think it's interesting. I don't think they're going to be a low cost carrier much longer. I think you're really going to see them become more competitive with Delta, American, United, and kind of be one of the bigger carriers. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But first, just to continue on the point you were talking about with their antiquated systems, their crew scheduling system was also a big problem because, in addition to not knowing where their airplanes were, they had no idea where their employees were, and they weren't
Hmm.
able to get their employees weren't able to get a hold of them because a lot of these systems were done through phone calls and their
Yep,
phone lines were just overpacked with people calling in
everyone
trying to
trying to
figure out
call
what to
in.
do.
Yeah,
And you know that probably is a thing for every airline, but all the other ones seem to be handling it a little bit better. So you combine that with a point-to-point system, and it was bound to fail at some point. It just happened to happen at the worst time possible,
yeah,
the busiest travel week of the year, more or less.
yeah,
Uh,
and they're stuck trying to cover themselves in a way that keeps them still in the public's good eye with all of the negative press that they were receiving. So I know that they did I don't know if they're still doing it or not. I think it may have ended, but they were doing a sale, like kind of like a flash sale for anybody that wanted to purchase tickets pretty much anywhere in the US. I did a few routings, and I know that I saw a few from like North Carolina to St. Louis actually, where the fares were, it was like $35 or something.
yeah.
So they were really trying to make sure that the people knew that, that they were sorry they were sorry for this, because I think a lot of people did view it as a, well, I'm done with Southwest forever after this, because you think of when it happened.
Yeah, I think going forward, you're definitely going to see a lot better performance from Southwest with this, but it's going to take time. If their systems go down again right now, really, it's going to take them building an entire new system and transitioning over to it before the problem's really solved. But Southwest does one thing to keep their prices low that no other airline has ever done, and that's fuel hedges. Uh, by making these fuel deals years and years ago, they were able to basically get that fuel at the same price for decades. Uh, that a lot of that's coming to an end for them. So I'm really curious to see what happens from here. But I think to stay competitive, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some price increases from Southwest in the near future.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to, with those kind of expiring. I don't know what
Yeah.
else, unless, I mean, unless you think that they've got like something else that maybe isn't public knowledge, where they've got those deals still going, like grandfathered in to just
Yeah.
basically as long as they want them. But who knows? That's just speculation at this point.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing within the airline industry, and I wasn't going to address this, but since we're talking about discount airlines, last year's big news was the purchase of Spirit Airlines by JetBlue. Now, I will be 100% honest, I haven't looked up recently how far that deal has gotten as far as regulatory approval. So I'm actually going to awkwardly pull that up now while we're talking. Um,
I actually didn't. I remember hearing whispers of that last year, but I don't remember ever seeing any kind of communications, any type of communication through my employer that had actually happened at this
yeah,
point.
I didn't either. I know in October of last year, the shareholders of Spirit approved the deal with JetBlue, which was a big deal because they were not approving the deal with Frontier and Spirit,
Hmm.
which really would have made Frontier and Spirit together would have made a very large low cost carrier.
Yeah.
JetBlue, not really considered a low cost carrier anymore, but
Hmm.
uh, it does look like they currently have a website up called lowfaregreatservice.com, which is JetBlue and Spirit, the national low fare challenger to the big four airlines. So as of right now, it looks like they are still working on getting that deal together.
Hmm.
And the big news for this really is it really increases JetBlue's footprint because they were very much a East Coast airline with a few destinations on the West Coast, whereas Spirit's kind of everywhere,
Hmm.
just in smaller airports in a lot of those cities. But it's going to be very interesting if they end up just making it one airline, because it is going to be a lot more competitive because of where they serve.
Or if there's going to be code shares, which would be a first of seeing a type of code share between like a low cost and um like a major carrier, because I would
Yeah,
consider JetBlue a major carrier for that region, kind of
I
like
would
how you
too.
think of like Alaskan, like is more like the west, like the northwest, and yeah, I it's gonna be interesting. Especially when I know this is probably a little bit on the snooze fest, but just from a agent standpoint of what kind of fare rules that you'd be looking at with the airlines merging like that or being bought out, if they're going to adopt the more restrictive, you have to pay for everything and anything on Spirit, or if, like you said, if they actually do a merge where they're under one airline, if they're going to see that go away.
That's a very good question. And I think, I get where you're saying the agent side of that, but I think that's going to affect the public quite a bit too, especially if when it comes down to change fees and
Hmm.
making changes on their tickets. I know Spirit has a lot of fares where you just absolutely cannot make any changes and you're just out the
Yeah, the
money.
throwaways.
Whereas JetBlue, as of right now, is still pretty competitive with all the other airlines where they're not really charging change fees domestically. So that would be a pretty big deal if they go with a more restrictive route, because that would honestly take away some of JetBlue's competitiveness with other carriers' fares.
Yeah, absolutely. Just depends on which way they want to go with it.
Yeah. So big hotel news, and this happened August of last year, so we're a little bit out from it, but I don't think a lot of people know about it. And that is Choice Hotels actually purchased the Radisson Hotels Americas. Uh, it's interesting because I guess it's okay to say this because we haven't worked for them in so long. We used to work for Carlson, which at the time owned Radisson,
Oh yeah.
and we got some great discounts because of that, to be honest, especially the Country Inn and Suites. But they sold off Radisson to an investor that was based in China at the time, and now here we are, not even 10 years later, and the Radisson Americas have been sold again. Now, the important part of this deal is it is just the Radisson Americas, and that only includes Radisson hotels in the US, Canada, Latin America, and the Caribbean. So it
Hmm.
seems like that overseas buyer that bought the Asian locations is just keeping the Asian locations and is sold off everything else to Choice. But the reason that I find that interesting is because Choice Hotels is very much focused on budget friendly limited service hotels, Quality Inn, Comfort Inn, basically anything you think of when you think limited service hotel, almost to the point where some people probably would even use the word motel for some of these locations. And Radisson, some of their properties are higher end, especially the 10 Radisson Blue hotels that they acquired in this deal. I know the one in downtown Chicago often sells for $400 to $500 a night. So
Wow.
it'll be interesting to see how Choice Hotels is able to take that on. And I know Choice does have their own higher end properties, but it's just not their main focus of expertise. So this deal was honestly a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, because every time I think of choice hotels, I definitely think budget friendly. I
Yeah.
don't think luxury. I don't think, upscale. I don't think superior rooms. Like, I don't think of that. I think of like convenience. Usually like the locations are very convenient and they're on the cheaper side.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And to me, honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is usually airport hotel when I think
Yeah.
of Choice,
Hmm.
just somewhere where you're going to stay the night, and a lot of times probably even in your own city, so you don't have to drive to the airport the next morning.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was looking into it because I was trying to think of the higher end brands Choice had because I couldn't even think of them. And that's their Ascend collection in the Cambria hotels. Honestly, I have never seen either one of those in person before.
I've never seen them before. I've never booked one of them. I didn't know they existed. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
be honest. That's
fair enough.
like I that is not what I think of when I think of like a luxury brand, like, or even like I said, even an upscale. Like you've got like Marriott has their W hotels. Like you when you think of like the W, like
Yeah.
that's a luxury brand that are in key places around the world. I can't think of a choice one where I'm thinking, yeah, I'd rather stay there than you know, most places if I've got the choice and if money is not an object or an issue.
I'm gonna pretend that you, the travel professional, didn't just say the wrong chain for the W hotels, because that's definitely a Westin property.
I don't think I was supposed to tell you that. That may have been
Oh,
a thing that I was brought up recently, but that's okay.
well, getting in trouble on the internet is how we like to do things.
Yeah, I mean,
I
just
would have
because
heard
it's
about it in the next couple of weeks too, and I probably would have
yeah.
let it happen. So uh, that doesn't actually surprise me. And actually, Weston is part of Marriott. I'm
I was
tripping.
gonna say I'm pretty sure that they're the same, but
Yeah, no, it threw me off because Weston was part of Starwood, and Starwood and Marriott obviously merged a few years ago. I'm the one that
yeah.
looks dumb in this situation. That's all right. It happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure that because the W is their luxury brand that specifically targets millennials as well as Gen X because of like they
Yeah.
have really open floor plans, like huge dining areas. They try to attract more of like the I'd say younger crowd, but we're not really the younger crowd anymore. It's I guess we'll just say the millennial crowd.
It's true. Honestly, what threw me off is I was thinking about the JW Marriott, and I was like, "Oh,
Hmm.
he got the W confused with the JW." And yeah, you would think I would know, considering I was, in helping with revenue for multiple Marriott properties recently. So
That's
yeah,
okay.
it happens. And that's actually just kind of proof of how big Marriott has become. I mean, they are huge at this point and have more properties than any other brand. Hilton's second, and to be honest, they're not even close.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, it's
Marriott's doing a ton of I don't want to say rebranding because a lot of the things they're
yeah,
doing are still the same, but rebranding in a way of making their properties more attractive.
yeah,
A lot of properties, even some of their upscale ones, were very outdated. They've done a lot of overhaul in this past year um to open things up a lot more.
yeah. I was just in a Marriott property about a week ago for something for a meeting, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It was a Renaissance, which Renaissance is one of their nicer hotels. They consider it premium, so it's not quite up to that luxury of the W or the JW Marriott or the St. Regis, but even that was in really good condition. And that stands out because I've been a Hilton guy through and through for the most part because of where I'm staying, but Marriott and the condition they keep their hotels in, the condition they expect their hotels in is just impressive.
Yeah, they have a really good standard for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that's I don't think I've ever stayed, and I mean, it's to Hilton's credit, I don't think I've stayed in a bad Hilton either. That's the between the two of them, and I may have been lucky, but
Yeah.
even the on the cheaper end, like I guess I haven't really went on like their budget route too frequently, but usually when it comes to hotels, if it's not a fancy boutique style property that you know is going to be above and beyond, usually you go with the more well-known names and you're usually safer when it comes to cleanliness or being up to date, especially after COVID. A lot of properties did a lot of major uh overhauls on kind of their properties since everything was shut.
And I think that is a valid point too, because even the properties that I stayed in with Hilton that were bad, there was an Embassy Suites in Cincinnati that was absolutely outdated, disgusting, and falling apart. If I'm just being totally honest, and Embassy Suites is supposed to be one of their higher end brands within
Yeah.
Hilton. But they were waiting on money for a renovation, and COVID had delayed it. And I think that happened to a lot of properties. So it'll be interesting to see how they keep up here in the next couple of years with what Marriott's doing. I know Marriott's spending a bunch of money, so we'll see if Hilton does the same thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that about Hilton because they actually are. Now I know I can't spoil too much of this, but they are bringing in a new line of hotels
Yeah.
through Mexico and Central America that are going to be more upscale, but not quite at the luxury level. So that's exciting to see because if you think Mexico and Latin America, people are very nervous to travel to for good reason.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're going or you don't have a solid plan, there are you. I mean, you can get yourself into some trouble. So, but having these large companies and hotels kind of invest in those areas is a big deal for anyone that enjoys traveling because you
I
know
would
what you're
agree.
going to get. You know you're going to be somewhere safe.
I would totally agree. All right. So, one last thing that I want to touch on, and then we're probably going to wrap this one up for now, and that is the MSG Sphere in Las Vegas. This is really big news. For those who don't know, the MSG part of this is Madison Square Garden, and they are building a new fully immersive entertainment venue on the strip in Las Vegas. Uh, it really looks cool because there's going to be LED screens all around the outside of the sphere so you can change images and all over the inside from the back of the seats all the way down to the back of the stage.
Hmm.
So it'll be a fully immersive experience, which is something very new. Yesterday, they actually began testing those LED panels on the outside. So it looks like they're getting very close to being done. And that's actually going to open in 2023, which is when it was planned for, which is kind of amazing for a project in Vegas to be on time and on track.
Okay, this thing I've never heard of this thing. This looks awesome.
It's amazing.
I just pulled it up. So msgsphere.com and it just looks like the moon is sitting in
Yep.
Vegas. So this is I'm excited for this. We might have to actually do our long awaited Vegas content special.
We've talked
This
about
is
it for
done.
years. It's about time.
Yeah.
But
This
yeah,
looks really
the
cool.
place looks amazing and it's going to attract all kinds of events. So my only hope is that it's not going to be exorbitantly priced to the point where we can never afford to go to it.
That is true. Have they put anything out about the types of shows or
They've kind of said everything from concerts to live music to Cirque du Soleil shows to boxing matches and sporting events.
hmm.
So it seems like it's really going to be built to do everything. And right now, there's a testing location. It's called the Big Dome in Burbank, California. And basically, it's a quarter size of the actual thing, but it has all of those LED screens so people can test what their show looks like.
Oh,
Uh,
on a smaller scale?
on a smaller scale so they can go ahead and book before it even is completed.
That's really cool. Yeah, I see some dudes scuba diving in here. This is
I saw that
what
too.
what is going to be happening with this? This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not
So
sure.
is you can go into this sphere then? Because
Yes.
it shows people like it shows concerts and I assume you're going to be in the dome
Yes, it's
for
just under
this.
20,000 seats inside.
Whew.
Yeah.
Now I
Uh,
wonder if you have to be vaccinated to go in. That'll be the next question.
I mean,
Probably
I'm
not
good.
knowing Vegas.
All right. Well, I guess that's all we have time for to talk about today, but we will try to upload these as often as we can. I don't know when that'll be or if we will ever get to a consistent schedule. That is just full transparency and honesty, but we may try at some
We
point.
might.
Yeah. So I want to thank you guys for listening and go ahead and go on over to YouTube and subscribe there, or you can listen to us on any audio platform. I'm going to upload this to our Anchor page and it should be available on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Thanks, everybody.